my struggles, my patterns, my fears, my money shadows, all of that is getting tackled this depth year. And I want to share how far I've come in those 2 months that have passed already and give myself credit or take away credit where I don't deserve it and kind of share my path with you. Hey everyone, I'm Anya Esma. Welcome to this video about my depth year, low buy year. This is an update for the end of February 2019. If you have no idea what a depth year is, I will put a little blurb in the description box and also a link to my original video where I talk about the specific things that I have committed to for this depth year / low buy year. Together, we will explore what I have gone through specifically in January and February. Of course, I'm going to try to weave together the insights that I've had and the psychological patterns that I have uncovered and the tweaks that I've made, as well as the specific commitments and whether I was able to stick to them or I lost in any of them, or basically look at how I did. This means this video is going to be about a little bit of money shadow, of course, and about my messy sacred space and about books and video games and all of the good jazz that I have committed to diving deeper into this year. So if you want to know where I'm struggling, where I am tweaking things, where I am not at the top of my game, then watch to the end and learn everything. My commitments are also in the description below, but I'm not going to go through them chronologically, but rather in a little bit of a dramatic psychological way in order to show where my mindset has been, what I've uncovered. So let's talk about eating out. I had a budget of 10 to 15 euro per month. So basically, I have overspent in February accidentally by like 50 or 70 cents because I miscalculated a tip and I didn't have the numbers right in my head. So I'm not that mad. I'm actually not even sure whether I should be counting tips towards this or whether it should just be the pure food, but I guess tips count as well. I just don't want myself to be a stingy tipper because I love tipping a lot, and I don't know. I'm going on a rant here. Let us just move on. Basically, what this has done for me is it made me think more about how I eat at work, because the main reason that I have to eat out is when I do something after an 8-hour workday with a friend. I'm going to be hungry because at work I eat lunch and then I will be hungry by the time I get home, except when I get home later, I'm obviously going to be starving by then. So I thought about how can I take more food to work without it feeling like I'm spending a lot more. The issue is my husband cannot eat gluten, which means that even in our kitchen, we cannot have gluten because cross-contamination is a huge thing with gluten. Even if you just eat a crumb, it could be bad for you. Any amount of gluten is bad, and gluten is sticky. So if I had normal bread and I cut it with the same knife that he cuts his bread with, that does not work, which is why we are a completely gluten-free household. And that means that bread is expensive. And I used to always take bread to work, but I can't anymore because it's way too expensive. So what I had to figure out, I was complaining about this to my husband, and he was like, why don't you just bake a bread? And I was like, yeah, why don't I? I've been wanting to try that for a while, and I did. And for the past 3 or 4 weeks, I always bake a bread on Sunday, and then I have something else to take to work rather than just nuts and my lunch, you know what I mean? So that means that in the evening, I won't be starving and I will be able to not spend money eating out, which is great. Reflecting on the way I eat and the way I spend money on that has been very helpful in establishing a new, healthier routine of baking bread, nurturing myself better, and also in a cheaper way. Another thing I love about having an eating out budget is that I remember things way more consciously. Because in the very beginning of the month, like, I don't know, the 8th or something, I went out with one of my best friends and we went to have food at a restaurant, which was only €4. That was good. But then we went to our favorite bar and they have really fancy cocktails. And there's one that I absolutely love. It has rosemary and it's just this explosion of tastes. It's just a beautiful beverage, basically. So I spent €7 on that drink. And I think if I hadn't committed to only spending 10 to 15 euro a month, I wouldn't have remembered that night so consciously. But now I'm like, damn, I spent basically 2/3 of my budget that night. And I don't regret it at all because, you know, it made that drink all the more tastier that I sat there and I was like, I'm going to spend half of my budget, even though I've already spent some of my budget earlier on this drink. And it was amazing. It was great. So basically having a more conscious approach to spending money out of the house and enjoying the things that I choose to spend money on more consciously. All of this is very related to my low buy year, but I'm going to get more depthy in a minute. I still struggle with spending money on healthy cooking ingredients, by the way, because, you know, vegetables aren't necessarily cheap, so we always kind of eat the same stuff. And because I am a vegetarian and I'm like 90% vegan usually, it is very hard for me to spend a lot of money on food and feel like I'm actually nourishing myself and not overspending, splurging on vegetables, on crazy fruits, you know. So I'm kind of still tweaking and working my relationship with spending money on cooking ingredients. Decluttering clothing. Basically, my goal for this was to sort my clothing, get rid of some of it, and kind of start wearing things again that I hadn't worn in a while. And a few weeks ago, I actually did a very fantastic session where I cleared out a lot of my wardrobe, and now I wear a lot more of the things that I actually want to wear instead of just wearing the same 2 pullovers every day. Like, honestly, that is what I do. I wear the same outfit every day because I don't sweat a lot, and I will just do that. If I'm lazy, I will just grab whatever is lying on the floor. And I've been much more conscious with putting things in my closet, keeping them there, and then choosing an outfit at the beginning of the day rather than defaulting to what I always wear. Which means that my depth year goal has been met with that. And I didn't really have a low buy goal for clothes because I don't buy a lot of clothes to begin with. I've bought a few, but only select pieces that I know I'm going to want to use a lot. That is basically how I've always bought clothing, so there's no big issue there. Now let's move on to books, which is one of my biggest struggles. My goal was to not buy new books until I had finished a certain stack of books that I am working on. Now the issue is, it's not that I have bought books. You know, I'm meeting the low buy goal of do not buy books until you finish these books. What I am not doing, however, is finishing those books. So going deep with them, engaging with them, actually reading those books, I am crap at right now. Kellyanne put out a really amazing video about reader's block, and a lot of it really pertains to me. And this is definitely an area that will require more work for me and that I will have to be more conscious of and try and really engage with why I do not read, why I feel like I don't have the time to read, why I take so many notes and kind of hold myself up with it. I'm excited to tackle that subject, and the depth here is pushing me to do that. I am regularly engaging with them. It's just a matter of doing it more and doing it more consciously. There was one specific book that I really wanted because the Woodland Hag, she's a great YouTube channel. I love listening to her. She did a book review of The Hidden Life of Trees, I believe it is called. It's actually a German book, so I could read it in German, but whatever. The point is, what she said about that book was so amazing that I felt like I needed to get it. I was like, oh my God, this is a life-transforming experience. I have to get it. But then I realized, you know what? It was a life-transforming experience to watch her review of it, to watch her thoughts on it, and to hear, because she basically sums up the gist of the book. And of course, reading the book would be a deeper experience, but I feel like watching that video has already given me so much that I don't think I need to actually buy the book right away. I would like to read it in the future, but that itch of like, oh my gosh, I have to bring this into my life, I don't need to, because she shares so many wonderful thoughts about it. I will put the link to the video below. It is amazing because the book talks about how trees communicate with each other, how they live in communities. This is all scientific stuff, not necessarily woo-woo. It is basically about how they connect their roots when they are friends, how they nurture each other. If a tree is dying, how they continue nurturing tree stumps after the tree has been felled. And there are so many interesting things about this, how they tell the other trees when bugs are coming so those trees can produce poison. And I don't know, it blew my mind to hear all of that. And that's why I wanted the book. But honestly, yeah, my mind was already blown and I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need to really buy the book right this second. And that realization of sometimes hearing the gist of a book is enough has been very important to me. Also, I have to be careful about engaging with too inspiring things before bed. Usually what will happen is I get tired around 10 or 11, but then I watch a really inspiring video, read a little bit of an inspiring book, and then I'm up for 2 or 3 hours. That's okay if I still get enough sleep, but if I really have to get up early, I have to be careful not to get too inspired. And having this fear of inspiration, because, you know, I'm very impulsive. I'm like, okay, I have to work on this right now. I can't just be like, oh, I watched this inspiring video. Let me revisit that in the morning when I maybe don't even have time, you know? So I always have to hammer it in right then and there. And it is so much fun for me. But at the same time, it's also exhausting to do that right before bed. So a YouTuber that I absolutely adore, Michelle B, I'm going to link her channel below, actually has made a video where she says that after a certain time she does not look at her phone, she does not look at books because it can be too inspiring. Now let's talk about video games. I swore to myself that in the first 6 months I would not buy more than 2 games, and I haven't bought any video games. Rather, I am working on my backlog. My husband and I started a video game about a year ago at this point, stopped playing it very quickly because the screen is just too small for us to both play it, yada. The point is, I continued playing that game and it is so much fun. It's a Phoenix Wright game. I don't know if you know about Phoenix Wright. It's basically a lawyer game, and what I love about this iteration of it is that it takes place in a highly spiritual country. So he has to solve cases, murder cases, in a country that hates lawyers, that only listens to the visions of a particular holy person who is actually just a girl, a young girl who has visions. And based on that, they execute the murderer, even though it turns out that her visions aren't always accurate. And you are just kind of trying to battle that. And the game has so much interesting content about spirituality. It shows, you know, the beautiful dedication that this country has, but also the zealots that are just way too hardline. And I actually found it interesting. I have to tell this real quick because they have 2 goddess figures. They have the Holy Mother, who is this nurturing, kind goddess. And then you have Lady Kira, I think she is called. And she is basically the tough, badass fighter who protects the country physically. And I love this classical goddess duo and the dynamic between them, all of the beliefs that go along with it. It's a very, very interesting and fun game, as every Phoenix Wright game, honestly. Jewelry! Yes, I have not bought any jewelry this year yet. Two things. Number one, yes, I have gone deep with my jewelry. I absolutely love this Sylvestris Deus necklace that I'm wearing. You can put dried flowers into it, and I used it for a certain spell where I created a sigil, pressed a clover leaf on that sigil, and then put the clover in here to carry around with me. It has given me a lot. So that is what I would call going deep with my jewelry. By the way, jewelry video coming soon. I already have part 1, but part 2 is coming. And yeah, I wanted to be a little bit more lookbooky and pretty. So the first one was a little bit like spur of the moment. But anyways, I will still link it below. And the only time I've really been tempted was when Azura Dragonfeather, who is a creator that I absolutely adore, released these cute little necklaces that have small books on them that you can actually write in. She makes all of this by hand. Bookbinding has always fascinated me, even though I've never done it myself. But she is a bookbinder and makes these tiny necklaces that you can wear. And I was so over the moon with it. But I am going to America in the second half of the year, as some of you know, and I'm thinking then I might get one of her pieces because I'm closer to her then. So yes, I'm definitely very stoked about that. And I'm thinking that not buying it now, like not indulging myself now, will probably make it all the sweeter once I actually get it. Because the no jewelry rule only applies for the first 6 months, and when I'm in America, I'm going to be a little more lenient and allow myself to engage in buying things that I really want more. I'd really love to know how you work with jewelry, if you work with jewelry, because it's one of the subjects that is it's one of my favorite subjects in the world, basically. And hearing how you incorporate it in your magical practice would be super interesting to me. I might want to do like an interview or some sort of taking your comments and making a video out of it or something about jewelry, because it's so important to me and I think it has so much value in this world, not just monetary value but magical value. Now about gifts, as some of you know, I'm allowing myself to freely purchase gifts for other people. But what I did, and I'm super stoked about this, is when my husband had his birthday, I made a table that had a lot of things that he liked. I just filled the table with figurines, crystals, tarot cards that embody an energy that he enjoys. Rather than buying him a ton of gifts, I just brought in the energies that he likes so he could celebrate with them. And it's very important to me because when I was a child, my mother always made a birthday table for me with flowers, with a gift, with a card. And I have all that, you know? Why do I have to buy a ton of new like candles or flowers or things to make a birthday table? I can just get together some of the things that he really loves that stand around the house usually and create a space that he can enjoy on his birthday. And I really, really enjoyed that idea. And the depth year is partly what made me do that. Because usually I probably wouldn't have bought anything. I mean, I would have bought a gift, but I wouldn't have bought like flowers because I feel like, no, I can't spend money. But now I'm like, well, but I don't have to spend money in order to make it nice. So that was a sublime idea of mine, if I may praise myself. Now let us talk about money shadows a little more. I talked about this in the first video very in depth about how I have issues with underspending and finding excuses to spend a little more money, and it's a whole mess. I'm not going to revisit all of that, but I have definitely found that the depth here is helping me more consciously enjoy old as well as new things, because so often we confuse boring things with things we see all the time. Just because you see a book every day doesn't mean it's boring, but that's kind of how our brains work. They're like, I need a new book. And they think the books that surround you are boring because you've seen them all the time, but you haven't read them. So there's like no logic to that. And realizing that and re-engaging with things that only seem boring because I've seen them visually, not because I've actually engaged with them, is very important and very central right now. Questioning routines in general has been very important to me, especially on the Virgo full moon. So establishing new routines, like a reset routine where I keep my notes in check, where I keep my ideas in check, my to-dos, and just organize myself to have a clean slate. That is something I've been doing, but I'm trying to hammer it home more and really do it every week and do every point on the list of my reset routine every week. If you would like to hear about this, if you're interested in a reset video or a weekly reset video or monthly reset video, then let me know, because it does make you start the week with a very nice clean slate where you feel like it's almost a new year, you know, and you can do whatever you want and start whatever you want rather than being weighed down by all the baggage from before. So I just want to reiterate, just because something isn't new and doesn't give you that tickle, we shouldn't confuse old things we've had for a while with routine things that are actually boring. Seeing a book every day in your shelf isn't the same as reading it every day and experiencing it every day. And sometimes seeing something every day makes us bored of it, even though we never even opened it up or experienced it. And I feel like it's sort of the same effect as with long-term relationships, where you just have to make it interesting. You have to keep it a relationship rather than just being like, well, this person, I've known them for 10 years, I know everything about them, and just forgetting that they are changing and that they could be a new person every day. And re-engaging with anything in life, I'm getting really general and philosophical here, is important, and reevaluating it is important. Okay, before I go, I want to talk about one of my biggest money shadow realizations that I've had so far. I have always been good at saving money, as I've said in my first video. I am more of an underspender than an overspender. I tend to not spend money because I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and saving for no reason, saving for the sake of saving, was ingrained in my mind. Not necessarily because anyone told me that that's how you should do it, but my mind just kind of figured that out on its own. And the thing I've had to recognize, and the way I've had to alchemize and shift my mindset, is that even though I saved without a goal when I was younger, I do have a reason now. And all of that money that I saved can be put to good use now that I have dreams. And I'm super grateful for old Anya saving a ton of money for current Anya to spend on her dreams. But I wouldn't allow myself to do that because I'm like, no, I have to save. I have to save. For what reason? I'm not sure, but I have to save. But now I'm realizing current Anya has these savings in order to spend them on her goals and her dreams. Something that old Anya didn't necessarily have. I didn't have I didn't grow up with the one dream of becoming whatever, a wrestler, a YouTuber, something. I didn't grow up like that. But now I do have goals and I do have dreams of where I want to live, how I want to live, how I want to work. And working on these and investing in these dreams has been tough. It was tough before I had that realization, like, wait, I don't have to save money for no reason. I have saved money and I have a reason to spend it. And of course, I'm still a conscious buyer. You don't have to worry that I'm blowing all my savings out the window. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm simply saying that allowing myself to make bigger purchases, like a new microphone for my phone, has been very hard for me. And now I'm finally allowing myself to do that, which means hopefully the sound quality is going to improve And even though that microphone was close to €100, I am fine with that. I am fine with spending that money. You know, I'm always of the mindset like, why do I need a new microphone? My audio is fine. Honestly, it's not really fine. It's not that great. And it's what I want to improve. I'm fine with my camera quality, but I'm not fine with my sound quality. So that was, I hope that I brought across what I mean. I think the way I say it makes it sound really easy, like, duh, this is really obvious, but it wasn't to me. It was a hard piece of realizing my limiting belief about savings and about what savings mean to me and how I can use them, or rather not use them. And I think the depth year is really what made me realize that as well, because having a low buy year, having a depth year, engaging with the why behind it and engaging with the depth of what you want to do in your life is inspiring. I know those words sound really hollow and I can't bring it across right now, I feel like, but I hope that you understand what I mean. Now I want to invest a quick minute to talk about depth year updates that I really enjoyed. First of all, Kelly Ann talking about her shopping habits and about realizing when and why she just wanders into a secondhand store or a charity shop. That was super interesting. And Jessica, the Story Witch's update, you know, she is basically the queen of the depth year in this community this year because she kind of started the movement. She didn't invent it, you know, but she is the one who made everybody kind of interested in it a lot. And one thing that really resonated with me from her video was that buying other people things isn't always a good way to show your love. So why would you think that buying yourself things is a way to show love and is enough to show yourself love? And I had never thought about it in that way. And while I do realize that buying myself things, of course, isn't a form of self-love, at least not in every case, I never really made the connection to like, yeah, I wouldn't, if I want to show someone that I love them, it's not about how much money I spend. And if I want to show myself that I love myself, it's not about how much money I spend on myself. If you've been doing a depth year too, I'd love to hear how it's going down in the comments. Essentially, to sum it up, I want to stick to my weekly reset routine better. I want to continue shadow working my relationship with the money, especially when it comes to buying cooking ingredients. And I just generally want to continue being conscious and, you know, questioning the patterns and the mindsets that I have with relation to my things. I have started decluttering, partly thanks to the whole KonMari hype, in case you've been caught in that as well. And, you know, cleaning up my house, making it a place where I really want to be. That is something that I'm working on in this first half of the year so that I can enjoy the second half very consciously and very chilled out. As far as new things, by the way, that I have incorporated in my witchcraft, I have started using smells more often. Some of you will know I'm very, very sensitive to incense. It gives me headaches. But I've kind of found a brand or a type that works, kind of. And I've been burning rosemary and, sage I always burn. And I've just been kind of dabbling in other scents. If you have any tips about that, let me know what you like to burn, especially if you have a sensitive nose. And I have started painting more and kind of painting pages in my journal. So those are the two witchcraft things that I've started kind of incorporating and bringing into my life. And at the same time, trying to schedule depth time, trying to schedule the time to read, which is really my big depth issue right now. I feel like I don't have an issue going deep with clothes, with jewelry, with my witchy tools, with video games, but books are a bit harder, but we'll figure it out, right? So I hope you have the greatest of days, the greatest of weeks. I will leave some video links below. If you are new to this channel and have watched to this point, you are a hero. please subscribe to me because this video is really long and I would be so thankful if you hear me ramble a bit more, right? And a quick thank you to everybody who is already subscribed to me. If you've watched to this point, you're also a hero, and I thoroughly appreciate that I reached 1,000 subscribers. At this point, I think I'm at 1,100 already, and I am so grateful, partly due to a shout out from Kellyanne Maddox, Azura Dragonfeather, Jessica the Story Witch. You are all amazing, awesome beings, and I want to dwell in this community forever because it is the best fucking community that I have ever been in. I have to stop myself from going to my phone first thing in the morning and checking my comments because it's not good for my mental health to look at my phone first thing in the morning. But it's always exciting, and I always see messages from you and talk to you, and it's just chill. It's awesome. It's sweet to be in this community and to grow with all of you. I love you all, my souls, and I will see you next time.